Well, good evening, folks. Hope you're well. I seem to have contracted sore throat and God knows what. The lurgy, I suppose, but forgive the croaky voice. I think it's, according to my wife, it's a cold. For me, it's man flu. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. I probably get this about once a year. But onward and upward about a video, and I've got to do my videos, as you know, from a cathartic point of view, and smarty points with him who must be obeyed, or whatever it is. Some time ago, I was mentioning the fact is, I was mentioning a point about empathy and the difference between empathy and sympathy. And for those of you who missed that, I'll say it again. Empathy is where you see a man in a hole, for example, drowning in quicksand. And then you have sympathy. What's the difference? Well, sympathy is you diving in the hole with him, trying to pull him out, and you'll go down with him. Empathy is throwing him a rope and telling him to hold on to it, and you stand back from a safe distance and pull the rope. Okay, that it makes common sense. But empathy and sympathy. You can use sympathy in many other ways, of course. You can be empathetic to a point. You can be sympathetic and, you know, the old business about feel, felt, found, which I did a video about. I know how they feel. I would have felt the same way. That sort of thing. If that had happened to me, I wouldn't like it, so I won't do it to others. And, you know, that is having empathy to a large degree. Not everybody's drowning in quicksand. I think it's a matter of being human, quite frankly. The fact is that we, you know, not that I read it, but it says in the Bible, thou shalt not kill. I absolutely hate, and I mean that word, and I mean right application to that word, I hate killing anything. I'm the sort of person that will actually feel bad about turning over the soil in my garden with a spade, only to find I've cut an earthworm in half. I'm almost apologetic for disturbing their habitat. I step over ants' nests, or an ant if I saw it, and I rescue bumblebees from the garden that are stuck in the grass and maybe coming out for the first time in their lives. And I have been known to rescue anything, really, that's in distress, because that's the way I roll. That's just gives me a great deal of pleasure, feeling of doing something good for a change to the wildlife of this world. Because who am I? You know, I'm here for a short period of time, and so are they. And if I can avoid killing them, you know, I will. I don't like killing anything. Well, it's got to the stage, to be honest. This is a demonstration, if you like. This is a very high-powered. You can see it. It's got a cylinder there. It's got night sights. Very, very high-powered. Barely legal, to be frank. BSA air rifle. It's a 2.2. And you can see the screen on the top, which is put over my chin, and this is the camera. And I can, well, I don't know, shoot a target third of a mile, I would have thought, with reasonable accuracy, especially if you plug in it, sit it on a telescope or a stand with this connector here and mount it on a swivel. Deadly accurate, absolutely. Take the testicles off a gnat, if that's what you want to do. I've got to the stage now where I can't use it anymore, because I'm much to my wife's irritation, I might add, Because the one thing having a big garden does for you when you feed the birds is attract rats into the garden, because hedge either side, my garage on the other side of the garden, huge garden with a fence. And yeah, we feed the birds, you can guarantee that you're going to get vermin. Well, it's how you classify the vermin, I suppose. Are they a menace? Yes, they are. But I'm going through this turmoil in my mind now that I'm not going to do it, because a few weeks ago it got to a stage where, well, excuse me, it got to a stage where I was getting moaned at, quite frankly, about the rats. Now I've got 5 dogs. I've got a Shih Tzu and 4 Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, little dogs, and they have free roam of the garden. They love the garden. They're always out, and that is my wife's bag, to be frank. She breeds Cavalier King Charles, high standard. She doesn't show them, but she's a graphic designer, and she does photographs for various kennel clubs and societies, etc. She's very good at art and all that sort of stuff. Not taking away from her, but that's her passion, and fortunately her passion is her job. As for me, I spend most of my life saving lives in many ways. I've always valued life, very much valued life. Whether it come from the deepest ocean to the most isolated places in the world, I value life. And I was under a lot of pressure a couple of weeks ago, looking at the rat population, to cull a few rats. And it does me in, that's what I'm trying to say. It's a clean, very fast, humane kill. When you shoot a lump of lead into a rat's brain, to be quite graphic, that's the best way to kill them. On the odd occasion, though, you cannot help missing the target, only to the extent of wounding the target. That's when it gets bad. That's when you then have guilt, because it'll scurry back into its hedge or its hole. And I fret then that I've hurt an animal. I don't care whether it's a rat, okay, or a mouse or a rabbit. I don't understand why anybody would want to go out and shoot rabbits for fun, or hunt foxes for fun, under the guise of its population control. Okay, and I certainly don't understand why people would point a 12-barrel shotgun at a wood pigeon, when the end result is, if they do eat it at all, they don't eat the pigeon, quite frankly. They eat the chest muscles of the flight wings, which are called, I can't remember what they're called now. There's a posh cooking word for it. The medallions, I think they're called. The chest medallions. They have to sanitize it. The flight muscles of the pigeons are quite strong on the chest. As you know, I quite like pigeons. I love birds of all kinds. I don't understand the morons that stand there. I get it, at the back of my garden, in the summer, I'm sick of hearing shotguns going off by people who, quite frankly, have got nothing better to do apart from kill things. And I walk my dogs sometimes in the woods, back of the house, and I come across rabbits that have just simply been shot. The dogs play with them, for goodness sake, and they're barking at them, and they're just shot. They're not removed, they're not eaten by carrion. They would have been had they been seen, but they've been slung in the hedge. And these are relatively fresh kills. And I don't understand why people would want to dig badgers out of a set and kill the pups and send their dogs down. Get the point. It doesn't do it for me. I think we should use our time in a more constructive way, rather than go around and destroying effectively creatures that have an absolute right to be on this world, the same as you and me. You and I, for the posh ones. So this is why I'm going to sell my gun, because it'll stop me being hounded into killing anything. Because it's in my nature. And that's the way I roll. And I'm a guy who floods up with tears when I see an abattoir van I drive past an abattoir van full of animals. I cannot help to get choked for the poor little sods, sticking their nose out on the motorway between the edges of the lorry, trying to get a sniff of the morning air, because they're always delivered first thing in the mornings, aren't they? Very early, and that's when I'm out and about, probably. Yeah, so I'm a softie, an absolute softie. I love animals of all kinds. In fact, insects, as you know, even down to the earthworm. As a metal detectorist, I dig holes to get the ancient artifacts out the ground, Victorian pennies most of the time. Only to, I'm more saddened that I cut an earthworm in half, pulling out, than I am of the joy of getting a penny. Because the way I think, I know it sounds nuts, but the way I think is that worm would be incomplete had I not gone metal detecting today. And it's equally, sad that it might sound to you, heartbreaking to me whenever I run over roadkill. Even when it's dead, I'll swerve to avoid the roadkill, because I cannot abide the thought of driving over a dead animal. Because some animals just collided and they roll and they don't get run over. And then I come along and I'm thinking, oh, shite, it does me in and it disturbs me. It truly does disturb me. I think about it a lot. Because I think, and I know it happens. I drove to a place the other week, about 30 miles. I counted 6 dead foxes, roadkill. And if I magnify that, or multiply that throughout the country, there must be hundreds of foxes killed every year on the roads of our country. Hundreds, if not thousands. Now, and then they have the temerity to say and justify fox hunting to cull the population. No. That's utter nonsense. It's not. It's entertainment for the hoity-toity high flyers and the plebs out there who want to go round getting hold of a young fox, slitting its pad to make it bleed, and letting it free again so it plants its little blood patches all over the land before they let these dogs out. Dogs are doing what they're trained to do. They chase after the fox. And then you get little fat Bunty on her horse, daughter of Lord, Lady, God knows what, even the local bloody farmers who've got delusions of grandeur in their red jackets. Oh, yah, do-do, tally-ho. Oh, Daddy, do you think we'll get a fox? And then when the dogs rip it apart, leg to leg, limb to limb, we'll get some blood and put some blood on me. Will I be blooded this year? I would have blooded her, personally. I'd have pulled her off and given her a good pasting myself for being disrespectful towards animals. But these people are heartless bastards, as far as I'm concerned. They have got to find something better to occupy their bloody minds than going out killing. And blood sports for me Don't even go there. I can probably like somebody very much talking to them. The moment they mention they're into blood sports or shooting live things for fun and for entertainment and for whatever this word is, for sport, that's it. Out. I don't want to know them because they're not my bag. So, the reason I'm not going to shoot a rat is that I know for sure that there are families of rats. Rats are incredibly intelligent, number one. That's why they use them in laboratory tests. They're used and abused throughout the bloody world, quite frankly, in laboratories. They're injected with all sorts. We even do this to dogs in research centres. You go to places like Porton Down, where they're doing animal research. They're using monkeys on experiments. And I'm wholly opposed to animal experimentation. There's no need for that shit anymore. You know, there's always somebody, a human, that will take enough money to get anything put upon them. Even in the military, when I was in the military, you could go to a week, you could get paid extra money for the week and put yourself in front of a medical officer at a place called Porton Down in Wiltshire, still there. And it's a really dodgy place, Porton Down, I can tell you. I've been there. I've actually PowerPoint presentations, I've done them there to groups of scientists. Trust me. And even as a visitor, you get your car egged. And I was just a visitor and I got my car egged to give a speech to a bunch of scientists that were waiting for me about certain aspects of blood chemistry. Anyway, cut a long story short, at Porton Down, you would not believe the amount of animal experimentation that goes on in that place. You see, we just treat other life forms of all sorts with like shit off our shoulders. And we're supposed to be the intelligent, clever, empathetic ones, aren't we? We're the ones who are supposed to be more advanced, you know. But animals, even animals don't do this to each other. And we think they're dumb. What about insects? Do they experiment on one another? No. Yes, certain insects are parasitic upon other insects. I mean, you know, you can get a spider that'll lay its eggs, a wasp that'll lay its eggs inside a spider. And then the wasp will fly away and the spider becomes paralyzed when their eggs hatch by the little beings inside it. But it's still alive. And then basically what the wasp has provided is a ready meal for when the eggs hatch in the form of a spider that is providing the protection until they hatch. And then the little spiders will eat the little wasps will eat the little maggots from the wasp will eat the spider. Well, that's just nature. That's the way God designed it, if you like, our creator. Not Jesus, if you want. You know, there's a huge in my mind, the construct of religion. We don't need religion, folks. We just have to know that something greater than us created the beings and creatures of this world. That's my version of religion. And the reason I say get back on track about the rats is I was lining up on a rat at night. Best time to go because they all come out at night. Halfway down my garden. It was a dead cert kill. It would have been. He would sit there doing all this. Now the scope on my gun gives me a big picture. And I can zoom in. I can almost see the nostrils twitching on the rat. It's a very good picture. It's colour. But in black and it would be colour in the daytime, but a shade of green at night. Night scopes. And I looked at this little thing. It was tucking into a sunflower seed. I could see it that clearly. Of which I've strewn over our garden for the birds, quite frankly. And the birds have their fill in the daytime. And my thoughts were, the dogs ain't out. They've been in, they've come out, they've gone to sleep now. It's, 11 o'clock at night. I'm lined up on this rat, and he was loving. I could see he was curled up in a little ball in the middle of I've always looked at their little hands, and I think, oh, look at his little hands. And they have 5 fingers, like us. And he was loving it. And then another couple of rats came out. Okay, and I can sex the rats. I can tell whether it's a male or female, even through the scope. But then a little rat came out. I thought it was a family, because they are very communal, and they stick together. And as one little baby came out, it's about this big. It wasn't a mouse. And he was in the middle of his mum and dad, enjoying the seeds. I thought, I cannot. I simply cannot do this. And the following day, my wife said, did you get the rats? I said, no, I won't. I'm not going to do it anymore. It makes me feel too bad. And I just simply am saying, no, I'm not doing this. Because I cannot be so unhuman about it. It is distasteful to me. I hope I've laboured that point enough. Because there is so much death and destruction and misery on this world that we live on. And all I'm doing is contributing it. For what benefit am I going to shoot a rat and bung it in a doggy bag in the bin, in the wheelie bin, or even sling it across into the woods? No, why? Because tomorrow, there'll be another one and another one. And it's a battle I will never win. The only way I'm going to win the battle is to stop feeding the birds. That's about the sum of it. But why should then the birds suffer because the rats come? Because the rats are almost in the woods, an infinite supply of rats. We know this. Okay. So I think my logic is the birds benefit in the daytime, and the rats and mice and little voles that come in, I see them. It's amazing what happens on your lawn under a night scope. You can see. And yes, rabbits too, and baby rabbits. And I can't do it. I just simply can't, because I lie there thinking, if I shoot this female rat, this male rat, or mum and dad, maybe there's babies in there, guarantee it. Maybe there's babies in the nest waiting for the mother coming back because they get milk off the mum. And if I shot the parents, those babies would starve to death. Another knife dagger to my heart, because I know that would happen. So now I've decided to get rid of the gun. There's no reason on this God's earth that I will kill anything. Not at all. I'd kill someone who hurt my family to the extent of, I would look after my family, that's it. And I have a right to look after my family. And why should we have the luxury of being able to look after our family? Why can't the animals? Well, they can, but there are defenceless animals to us with guns at night time. It's not a fair fight, for an example. And I'm at least fair. So I see no real benefits in going out shooting creatures at night time just for sport. I don't get a kick out of it. The kick I get out of it is a kick in the groin, quite frankly, and it makes my heart feel hard. And I find it very, very difficult to function. It's nothing to do with religion and paying the price at the pearly gates, saying I'm a murdering bastard. Getting pleasure. It's almost schadenfreudic, you shoot things because it makes you feel good. I think that's a bit psychopathic. And I found that even in the gun club community, that I was never part of really, is that the world is full of these people. Why did you kill it? Because I can. These big game hunters, they're no better than, I'm no better than them. Because we're killers. I don't want to be a killer. you know. I'd be a protector of my ones I love, my family, and my country, quite frankly. I'd be a protector. I was okay in the military. I'd shoot somebody who wanted to invade this country in the war. Of course I would, because they would want to do damage to my fellow country people. But that's the rules, you see. It's equal. They could shoot me. You see, I would consider fox hunting sport if you give the fox a gun. Now you get me. So I'd value your opinion to see if you think I was a soft touch. I've lost the marbles, lost the plot. There's plenty of wooden targets that you can shoot at if you want to see how good a shot you are. There's paper targets. There's moving targets. You can do clay pigeon shooting. You don't need to kill living creatures. It's just bad luck they happen to be flying around when you got out of bed, isn't it? And I don't want to be like that. All I know is that in the Hippocratic Oath you say, first, do no harm. And the second bit is, and don't make matters worse. And if it's good enough for the Hippocratic Oath, is good enough as an oath to live by. I don't wish anybody harm, and I don't wish any creature harm. And I'm sure the rats don't get up in the morning and thinking we're going to give them lot in their garden a real rough time. They don't. Live and let live, folks. I think that's got to be the way forward for us humans. We're such a warring species, aren't we? We still don't seem to want to learn. What are your thoughts? Sympathy things on a postcard.